Nigerian nation is going through the hard times of keeping together as one indivisible country with peace, love, and progress. There are those who have vowed to keep the country together. Joining us to discuss the state of the nation is Kashim Ibrahim-Imam, Chairman, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, and President of the King's College Old Boys Association. Well, Alhaji Kashim Imam, I wish I could say Floriat, but I wasn't privileged.
We don't have that privilege.
I wasn't privileged to be a KCOB, right?
Not to give you honorary membership, don't worry.
Oh, okay, somebody is telling me he is somewhere in the gallery. But it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well,
good morning, viewers.
Yes, we're discussing a number of issues, but state of the nation. I mean, as a young man from the north, you went to school in King's College here in Lagos. Members of your class are from every part of Nigeria. How do you feel looking back? I mean, seeing that all of a sudden in this country, there's such a high level of ethnic suspicion, rivalry, politicization of relationships. Where did we get it wrong? And how do you think we can move forward and weld this country together as one nation?
Interestingly, I find it difficult situating myself in the north or south or anywhere. I see myself essentially as a Nigerian. When I travel abroad and I meet Nigerians, they will ask, what part of the country are you from? And I will tell them I'm a Nigerian. They will repeat the question. I will again insist that I'm a Nigerian. Mainly on account of my upbringing. I had the privilege of growing up here in Lagos as a child. I attended King's College Lagos. I am president of the King's College Old Boys Association. I'm the first person from across the River Niger elected as president of our Old Boys Association in a 112 years history. So it's actually impossible to straight me north, south, east. I just see essentially myself as a Nigerian. In King's College, as students, we were only 60 in my class, just 60 of us. I don't know how it was done, the magic, the miracle, but there were three, four from each state of the Federation. So from Borno, my humble self, Mustapha Damchida, Zachary Kolo, Zachary Tata, from Benue, Onoja, Idache, Ikape, and so on. So it was truly a melting pot of sorts because every state was represented. And we just saw ourselves as students, as mates. We played together, we studied together, we grew up together, and we bond till tomorrow. Our class said, I'm on the platform, it's as if we've not even left King's College. Which was more than 45 years ago, but still we interact, we communicate daily, late into the night. And this has broadened my horizon. And I went on to develop a network of relationships across the length and breadth of this country. Pastor Itwa Igodalo is my vice president. And after listening to Babangida on this very show, less than 2 weeks ago, he called me and he said, did you hear President Babangida? He just finished describing you. He said, on television. And I said, no, I missed it. But subsequently, I watched it. So for me, I'm just a Nigerian. And I think I've enjoyed the privilege of truly being a Nigerian. I'm at home in every hamlet in this country. I've built a network of relationships across the length and breadth of this country. And once upon a time, this nation was great. We are doing extremely well. Now, as to where did we get it wrong, I foresaw this a long time ago. I have a friend that I met in King's College, and a family actually, not even a friend, the Mapogunjes, and I became a member of that family. One of them, the senior one now, Sheo Mapogunje, he reminded me, he said, I have consistently, persistently been predicting this scenario that has unfolded, that has snowballed now into banditry, into Boko Haram, into unrest, into killings. And he said that for 30 years, I've consistently been predicting it. And I'll tell you, Ruben, how and why I made the prediction. As kids growing up in Lagos, school enrollment was 100%. Every child went to school. Whether the parents are from Morocco, the slums of Morocco, from Ajegunle, from Mushi, it didn't matter. Every school-age child went to school. Now, equally important, and which is also very critical, and which has also contributed to the mess in which we found ourselves, is the fact that the parents who are also 100% gainfully employed. Of particular interest is the women. Every woman in Lagos was and still is gainfully, fully gainfully employed. Whether she has a stall, she's running a stall in the market, she has a canteen, she has a restaurant, she could be a teacher, a nurse, whatever it is. It is in Lagos that I saw women at construction sites carrying pans of cement on their heads with child strapped to their bags. So every woman is gainfully employed. The men also, they could even be motorway drivers or bus drivers, but they are also gainfully employed. My first shock was when I went back home to the north, and I saw that the bulk of school-age children were not in school. In the early 90s, first 1990, 91, 92, 93, leading up to the elections, we used to go to local governments to campaign. I was then state chairman of the Social Democratic Party. And if we drive into any local government headquarters, I'll notice young kids, very young boys, in their hundreds literally, chasing the convoy. And at our campaign rallies, I would also notice I would look at my wristwatch, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I would say to myself that these kids should be in school. Unfortunately, they are not in school. It is these boys that have now grown up to become Boko Haram and to become bandits. So the critical issues are, for me personally, two issues. One is education. The second one is the state of the economy, especially it has to do with our productivity, employment. So people don't have anything doing. And as the adage says, a hungry man is an angry man. Most of the youths in the north are jobless. On the streets of Lagos, if you see the youths, you see them selling all manner of things. They sell water, they sell drinks, they sell newspapers, all manner of things. It is those same boys, their age mates in the north now, that are unfortunately carrying guns. And it has a lot to do with, or it actually has everything to do with the state of the economy. The fact that we are not producing enough, the fact that people are not gainfully employed. As I said, it also is directly related to the state of our education.
So many questions arise from what you've just described, but I'm going to start from what you said, how you were described by former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida. So does that mean that you always love for this?
I wasn't, well, Pastor Etua is my vice president. It's not just my friend, but it's also the vice president of the King's College All Boys Association. Perhaps he's just expressing his thoughts, his wishes, his best wishes, his prayers. Remember that he's a pastor.
Yes, exactly, which is why his words carry certain weight. So are you agreeing with Pastor Itwa? Will you be throwing your hat in the race?
I haven't finished, sir. All right, please do.
Or will you be towing the line we're more accustomed to seeing you toe, which is as a staunch supporter of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has been eyeing the presidency. I mean, that's the worst kept political secret, even though he hasn't officially declared. Where do you stand? Will you be supporting his presidential ambitions or not? Because you've taken us back to your SDP days, your political, contributions include those days, and also really mobilizing quite a number of people to join the APC from the PDP. So where do you stand for the race for 2023?
In all honesty, I haven't actually given, as far as I'm concerned, me in person I'm concerned, I haven't given that a serious thought. As I said, I thought that Itwa was just expressing his best wishes. As for Tinubu, we've been friends for 31 years. I think that Tinubu has given an excellent account of himself. I personally think that Tinubu has done extremely, extremely, extremely well if you consider where he started from. When I knew him 31 years back, he had no name, he had no contacts, he had no influence. And if you see where he is today, he has done extremely well. I just want to take only just one critical area or critical sector because I am involved. And that has to do with the revenue for Lagos. In the year 2004, Tinubu created additional local governments, and President Obasanjo literally impounded, confiscated the revenue that should ordinarily be accruing to the local governments in Lagos. And I think that set Tinubu thinking, and he went to the drawing board. At that stage, 2004, the IGR for Lagos was just 600 million naira. As of May last year, the IGR for Lagos was 35 billion naira a month. For the whole of last year, IGR in Lagos was 418 billion. And that has a lot to do with the transformation of the state of Lagos. By the way, the IGR for the 19 northern states combined is a little less than 200 billion naira. So you can now see perhaps the impact of this on even other sectors like peace and security. The fact that we have banditry in the north, we have Boko Haram in the north, and so on and so forth. In Lagos, there's so much prosperity. People have not given Tinubu sufficient credit. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Tinubu aspiring to be president of Nigeria. I'm not making a declaration on his behalf because he has not told me that he's running for president. But given the opportunity, I think that he would perform very well. Now, as for me, I was in Abeokuta to commiserate with the governor. We lost our father. His father is also my father. And I jokingly told them there that, look, you have one of two options. You can have Tinubu if you insist that it must go to the north, or as Babangida said, you want somebody in his 60s. I'm actually on the correct side of 60 because I'm not even 60 yet. Good. Then it's either they have Tinubu, you have Tinubu, or you have me as president. Good.
Rufai.
I mean, a lot has been said about this, presidential ambition, but I'd like to get your reactions to the word ascribed to the presidency that some people cannot just sit down in Lagos and expect the presidency to tilt towards them in 2023. Although the presidency came out to make clarifications on that, but a lot of people said that was pointed to your friend, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And what will be your reactions to the things that recently Chief Bode George said about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, about the fact that he should bring out his academic qualification, he should come out and say, okay, if Alpha Beta had not been run fraudulently and the likes. A lot of allegations, against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What's your take about all of this?
As I said, I'm not holding brief for Bola Tinubu, but I've listened to Bode George several times, and I can at least address one critical area. I saw the program, The Lion of Bodilon, that Lagos generates 35 billion naira monthly. Alpha Beta generates 35 billion naira for Lagos every month. That is absolutely true. That the Alpha Beta receives 10% of that. Specifically, he says, and he insists, 3.5 billion naira as commission. That is absolutely rubbish. That is absolute falsehood. And he is an elder. I'm not joining issues with him. I think it's very important that he gets his facts very right. I'm aware, on account of my long years of association with Tinubu, that yes, Lagos is generating 35 billion, which is a good thing, a credit to Tinubu, a credit to Lagos. But the commission definitely is not 35 billion, i.e. it is not 10%. There's a benchmark, and it is anything that is in excess of that benchmark that is achieved that is paid as commission to Alpha Beta. And I'm also aware that they have staff to run, they have offices to run, vehicles, and so on and so forth. So it is very important that, yes, we're in the political arena, but we must get our facts right.
Well, you seem to trust...
Said in Abuja, what the presidency said, that some people can't just sit down in Lagos and think they can run the party and allow the presidency come to them. And that word was said just a day before the president visited Lagos.
I think that was also taken completely out of context. I don't believe that the president directed his comments on any single or specific individual. I refuse to accept that. Only this week, I think, like 3 days ago, we all saw pictures, photographs of the president visiting Asiwaju Tinubu in London. So I can attest to the fact that they have mutual respect for each other. They have excellent relationship, and they are our party leaders. They came together, and we all actually came together. We campaigned together. Some of us moved from the PDP to the APC, and I'm happy to say that we were able to form the federal government. And Tinubu gave his all, his time, his energy, his resources, everything of his. He devoted it. So he is a stakeholder in the Buhari presidency. And I don't believe that the president actually directed those comments personally at Tinubu.
Well, two quick things. I mean, first, why will you trust that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will emerge in 2023? I know you say you've had a relationship for over 31 years, but there was a time you wanted to be National Secretary of the APC, if I'm correct, right?
I'm listening.
Yeah?
I said I'm listening.
You're listening,
Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't get the support from him at that time. It was Buni, the current chairman of the caretaker committee, that emerged, and it was from that platform he became governor. But here you are, at a critical moment, you didn't get your friend's support, but you say, you know, you want him as president. If he misses it, you will take it. But there is a second question, because we're trying to manage time. You are the chairman of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Nigeria has committed, we're told, about 2.5 trillion naira to the tertiary education sector in the last 10 years. And yet we still have these problematic, education centers with dilapidated hostels, with no best spaces for students. Where did all that money disappear to? Have you been able to make some discoveries in your capacity as chairman of that fund?
Now, I find that actually much more topical, much more interesting.
No, but at least to close the chapter on the Tinubu story.
To close the chapter on the Tinubu story, I think that even makes my stance more credible. You just said that he didn't support my bid or my aspiration to be National Secretary. And here I'm saying positive things about him. I'm just simply being factual. For me, what is very critical is that the next president of Nigeria must be from the APC. That is what is absolutely critical to me. I'll repeat again, Tinubu has not yet told anybody that he is a candidate or he's running, not to talk about my humble self. So we'll close that chapter, at least for now. For another day, I'll be back. I'm ready to take on this issue. But you've now touched on something that is very dear to my heart, that is very topical. Yes, we've spent 2.5 trillion naira. The evidence is across all the university campuses. And I invite you to visit any university campus. I was at the University of Lagos. We have projects, current projects, ongoing, recently completed 75 projects. At LASU, 68 projects. In all of the universities, whether it's owned by the federal government or the states, as well as the polytechnics, the colleges of education, if you visit all the projects, 90% of all projects are funded by TED Fund. And I keep hearing one very encouraging word from the head of one institution to another, but for TED Fund, but for TED Fund, but for TED Fund. TED Fund is actually performing miracles across our university campuses in all the critical areas. Understandably, we paid a lot of attention to infrastructure. So all the infrastructure across all the universities, the auditoriums, the lecture theaters, the classrooms, the science laboratories. We also equip the science laboratories. You go around, all are funded by TED Fund. We also fund research. This year, our budget for research is 8.5 billion naira. Last year, it was 7.5 billion naira. So we fund research in critical sectors, especially in particular in the sciences, in engineering, in technology. This is in recognition of the fact that that is the catalyst that will, boom, actually push this economy to the next heights. People talk about, and it is actually universally acknowledged that California is the 6th largest economy in the world. This is on account of just the existence of the Silicon Valley in the state of California. All the billionaires listed by Forbes, whether are all their background is now the global economy is driven by knowledge. Whether it is Facebook, it is Microsoft, it is Google, it is Twitter, it is Tesla, and I can go on and on and on. The global economy is knowledge-driven. In recognition of this, TED Fund is paying particular attention to research, especially in the fields, as I said, of education, of the sciences, of technology. Now, another critical area of our intervention has to do with academic staff training and development. To date, we've trained more than 30,000 university lecturers, polytechnic lecturers, and lecturers from the colleges of education. Over 30,000 at a cost of close to 200 billion naira. So TED Fund is not just doing well. TED Fund has become a reference point for excellence as far as tertiary education is concerned in this country. I'm extremely proud of our records. I'm proud of our achievements. Hostels, you are right. The state of our hostels is in shambles. This is on account of the fact that till the time that I assumed office as chairman, hostel accommodation was not on the list of our priorities at all. But going forward, from this year, we've also identified 3 critical sectors. The first one is in the area of hostel accommodation. I was privileged to attend a presentation in the office of the Honorable Minister of Education, my friend and brother, Mala Adamu. In the course of the presentation, I listened to the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission. He was making a very strong case for hostels, and he said that bed spaces across the tertiary institutions is only about 15%, i.e. that 85% of all the students in the polytechnics, in the colleges of education, and in the universities don't have hostel accommodation. And I took up that as a challenge. So we are rolling out a program on the development of hostels presently at TED Fund. And we are targeting 100 institutions. We are looking at doing 1,600 bed spaces. That will give us a total of 160,000 bed spaces. So give us 4 years. What you said about hostels will be a thing of the past. Then I will invite you to visit, Doctor, the universities And you will attest to the fact that there is a revolution as far as the issue of hostels accommodation is concerned. The second critical area has to do with the deployment of the infrastructure that will facilitate e-learning across the institutions. Prior to the onset of COVID, this could have been considered a luxury, perhaps a no-go area, but with the onset of COVID, it has become a very essential thing to do. And so we are now looking at that. I'm happy to say that the first of these projects is nearing completion in the University of Abuja. We've laid 20 kilometers of fiber optics. We're also building an innovation center. The innovation center comes complete with incubation rooms. It has smart lecture halls. It has server rooms, data room, and so on and so forth. So the third area of critical intervention, which is also new, is in the area of the provision of power. We are partnering with a federal government agency known as the Rural Electrification Agency in providing independent power supply for across the tertiary institutions. Thank you.
Right, you are referring to the comments that you made at a recent taxpayers forum and sort of encouraging Nigerian companies to pay their education tax. You're welcome to expand on that here. But also in your role as the president of the King's College Old Boys Association, what have you observed about the power and importance of an engaged alumni that could help tertiary institutions all over Nigeria?
The first leg again, please.
Education tax.
Education
if you want
tax.
to expand on that, and then the power of an engaged
Now, education tax, we don't even have a choice anymore. You had the pronouncements that Mr. President made in London, specifically at the World Summit on World Education Summit. The president committed to an additional to increasing the spending, i.e. the budget on education by 50% within the next 2 years. He also publicly committed to increasing the spending in the education sector by a whopping 100% in precisely 4 years. At TEDFON, we are on course to achieving that. Fortunately, we set higher targets for ourselves, both in terms of the percentage increase as well as the timing, because we gave ourselves just 1 year, 12 months. By the way, our budget this year is 300 billion, and we are looking at something in the region of 400 to 500 billion naira by next year. We've communicated this, we've challenged the Federal Inland Revenue Service that is responsible for education tax collection that we must hit 500 billion naira, and we are on their necks actually every day. The recent stakeholder summit that you alluded to, we organized it to achieve two things. Number one, to say thank you to the major companies that are contributing huge sums as education tax. The second leg of it, which I consider more important, is for us to give an account as to what we've been doing with the tax that is contributed annually by these companies. And I think if you watched, you must have read the accounts. It was a hugely successful outing. So we don't have much of a choice. I personally think that we can achieve 500 billion. I'm also, if you consider my background, I am an authority of sorts on taxes. I've already alluded to that. It is possible to achieve 1 trillion naira. It is doable. Now, I found something that was very interesting. Before the stakeholders summit, I requested for a list and a classification, you can call it categorization, of the companies that contribute taxes into 4 categories. The first one, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. We requested for this from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And I wanted my humble self and the trustees to go around to these companies, those that fall on the platinum list, instead of just inviting them to some hotel to say, okay, come to us, we went to their offices to go and say thank you to them, and also to explain to those companies what we are doing with the revenue that is generated. And what I found most interesting was the dominance first of the oil majors on that list. Number one on our list is Nigerian LNG. Number two is Shell. Then you find companies like Chevron, Mobil, and so on. All the oil majors are there, all. Basically, the list is dominated by the... then I recall also a visit that I made to the group managing director of NNPC, again also to say thank you. And he said to me, look, 70–80% of your revenue is coming from the oil companies. Again, just 2 weeks ago, I was at a function organized by the University of Petroleum
Technology?
Petroleum Resources in Delta. And we sat together with the Minister of State for Petroleum, my friend Timmy Silva, and he said, look, considering the fact that the bulk of your revenue is coming from the from the oil sector, he said maybe we should move TED fund from the Ministry of Education to the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Petroleum.
Okay, on that note, we'll need to take a short break. So we'll take this short break, and then when we return, our conversation with Kashim Ibrahim-Imam will continue. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with Kashim Ibrahim-Imam, Chairman, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, and President, King's College Old Boys Association. Thank you for staying with us, sir. So before the break, we're talking about the importance of education tax. I also asked you about your perspective, seeing as you are the president of King's College Old Boys Association, your perspective on the power and importance of an engaged alumni and how that could positively impact tertiary education in Nigeria.
Well, still on TED Fund, I believe that it's a very laudable thing. It's the best thing to happen to our tertiary education. I also believe that there's so much more that we can still do, that we can still achieve. I believe that we're on course to impact much more than we've done, as I said, and everything just boils down to the revenue, because you can only impact as much as you have the ability, you have the capacity to pay for. Our budget this year is 300 billion. We are looking at something in the region of 500 billion for next year. By the target that the president has set for us, i.e. 4 years, I'm actually targeting 1 trillion naira. Now, everything has to do with the collection of the education tax. The last point that I was making before we went on break had to do with the categorization of the companies into different categories, i.e. we had platinum, we had gold, silver, and bronze. And almost all the companies on the platinum list are the oil majors, except for a few other companies like MTN made the first list. GT Bank also made the first list. But what is very interesting about that first list is the fact that it's not just the dominance of the oil companies, but the dominance of the multinational companies, i.e. those companies that are subjected to that are governed by 2 sets of rules and regulations. First, that of their home countries, and then the Nigerian one. They, interestingly, are the ones that are the biggest contributors. And my reading of that is the fact that because the issue of taxation is very serious in the Western world, the multinationals, they don't toy around, they don't joke with the issue, with the payment of taxes, whatever taxes whether it's corporate taxes, it's education taxes, that most of the Nigerian companies are poor in terms of the payment of taxes because our laws, our regulations are not very, very strict on this. I think that there is the room for all the major Nigerian companies. They declare billions as profits. I think that there's the room for them to improve and improve significantly. So it shouldn't just be GT Bank that should be on our list of first 10. Zenith is a big institution. Access is a big institution. UBA is a big institution. Stanbic IBTC is a big institution. You also have Nigerian companies like the Dangote Group, whether Dangote Cement, Boa Cement, and a host of other mega Nigerian companies that declare billions of naira as profits. And for us at Third Fund, the revenue is simply a factor of how much revenue or how much profit each company declares at the end of the year. And we expect to be paid, each company to pay just 2% of the total revenue that, the total profits that is generated at the end of each year. So I'm also taking advantage of this interaction today with you to appeal to all companies to religiously commit to the payment of this 2% levy as education tax. And I can say this on account of the fact that we have more than justified, and the evidence is there across the institutions, what we've been able to achieve with the money that is being generated every year as education tax. Now, to my first love, King's College. Well, I've said it, I don't know how to take it back. I hope that my wife and my kids are not watching this program. The last time I alluded to, I didn't even allude to King's College as my first love. What I said then was that the best thing that happened to me in life was the opportunity that I had to attend King's College, Lagos. And when I got home, my boys were up in arms. Dad, are you saying that we are not the best thing that have happened to you? So I would have to choose my words very carefully. I'm passionately in love with King's College. I'm very excited about King's College. I was in King's College just yesterday, supervising the cleanup exercise. The campus is not as clean as what it used to be during my time as a student in King's College. So for the past 4 weeks, I've been dedicating all my Sundays to make sure that King's College is kept clean. The role of the Alumni Association. We have written to the federal government, and our position is very clear. Hand over King's College to the Alumni Association, i.e. our Board of Trustees and the executive of the All Boys Association will do not just a better job, the best job of managing the institution. We are determined to restore the standards first to what we met during our time as students in King's College. And we are also determined to take it beyond that. And the only way that can be done is the federal government. For the federal government, I personally think that running secondary schools is a distraction. The federal government has no business running secondary schools. Yes, the concept of these unity schools was initiated by the federal government. It has done well, but I personally think that going forward, perhaps government should hand over the management of the secondary schools, at least secondary schools, secondary education, starting also understandably first with King's College being the first of them all, and then Queen's College in that order, and then the rest of the unity schools, one after the other. I can see that Doctor is very itching to contest this.
We're trying to manage time. No, okay. I agree with your point of view about the Alumni Association having a role to play. But just a small clarification about the point you were making about education tax before we go to Rufai to take maybe the final question. There was a judgment recently in Rivers State about VAT. And, the main import of that ruling is that federal government cannot be collecting taxes, particularly VAT in the states. Does that have any implications for the education tax 2%, which is collected and managed by the federal government to the exclusion of the states? Although FRS has gone on appeal. Anyway.
The two are not in any way related.
Okay.
First, about VAT, I will not comment on it because, as you said, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has already appealed that judgment. But I can talk about education tax, and that is to say that the two are not remotely related. Not only that, I also want to place on record the fact that at TED Fund, we don't discriminate between the institutions owned by the state governments and those owned by the federal government. The governors regularly visit me with all manner of demands concerning their institutions. And we have done equally. I said in UNILAG 75 projects now, in LASU 68. LASU is owned by the Lagos State government. Actually, the Act commits us to treating all the institutions equally. The revenue is divided in the ratio of 2-1-1, 2 in favor of the universities, 1 for the polytechnics, and then the last 25% is for the colleges of education. This includes all the federal universities as well as all the universities owned by the state governments.
Okay, Rufai.
Thank you so much for your insight. I mean, it's obvious they are very cosmopolitan. Even with the cap, for somebody from the north to wear a very proper Yoruba cap like this and the Yoruba bead, it shows you're cosmopolitan. Sir, there's word out there that you're the architect of the defections of, governors from the PDP to the APC. It's your master stroke. Which PDP governor is going next? Let's just, clear that out. And what's your take on the Igbo presidency or Southeast presidency?
Well, these are two different questions. Defection, first, we actually migrated from the PDP to form the APC. If you remember, we formed what we then called the new PDP. And yes, I'm guilty. I crisscrossed this country. Everybody, I reached out to almost every single person, all the governors then, and no apologies. Again, today, I think history is repeating itself. Governor Omahi has joined us. Governor Idea has also joined us. Governor Matoli of Zamfara has joined APC. We are in dialogue. Yesterday, it was the turn of Governor Ladoja, although he is a former governor, but I can confidently tell you that he's the next major person that is going to join us. He is my elder brother. He's someone that I have very, very close ties with. Going back also more than 30 years. He will be a very credible leader for the APC, in particular in his home state of Oyo. But it will not be fair for me to tell you which PDP governor is going to join us next. By the way, I took this battle all the way to the table and the decks of Wike. He would tell you, when I went on assignment regarding my responsibilities as chairman of TED Fund to Rivers, I invited him publicly that he should also come and join us. So at least that I can say in front of television cameras. But those that were seriously engaged in a dialogue with, I wouldn't be disclosing their names here. It simply wouldn't do. There are at least two that I'm privy to that I visited several times. And can I say that the discussion continues until such a time that I think that having a big party, that all sectors of the country are represented, will be a very good thing for us in this country. So we've concentrated our efforts a lot in the South, especially the Southeast and South-South. As for Igbo presidency, I have said this. I'm at home, by the way, in every hamlet in this country. I don't see myself in the context of Hausa, Kanuri, Yoruba, Igbo. I think that all Nigerians are entitled to the presidency of this country, but it has to be, our Igbo brothers have to get it right. You can't hold a gun to anybody's head to say or to insist that, look, it must come to us. And for us in the APC, it is actually difficult to field an Igbo candidate until such a time that our fortunes improve tremendously in the Southeast, which we are actually working on doing. But as things stand today, it will be difficult for the APC to field a candidate either from the South-South or from the Southeast, on account of the fact that these are not, at least as at now, our core areas of strength. Across the North, yes. In the Southwest, yes. In recent times, we are making incursions into the East and also into the South-South. So until such a time that our Igbo brothers get it right, I think what they did in the past was to put all their bags, all their eggs, as they say, in one basket, i.e. in the PDP basket. We are now trying to convince them that, look, this party, there's room for all of us, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, whatever zone, whatever tribe, whatever region. So until such a time... So
does that mean you're ruling out Amechi as, prospective president in 2023?
Well, I'm not actually ruling anybody out. Amechi is a serving minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Amechi has not declared that he is a candidate. I haven't heard it anywhere. So until such a time, as far as I'm concerned, he is a serving minister. I'm just telling you the reality of the politics of the APC. Our core areas of strength are the three zones in the north and across the southwest. It's only now that we are making incursions into the southeast and the south-south.
Well, very quickly, you've talked about the defections of PDP governors into APC. But we have a peculiar case in Zamfara State where the PDP has decided to go to court to challenge the decision of Governor Matawale to cross over. Do you have any anxieties about how that matter may be resolved eventually? Because it will have implications in terms of whether governors can defect from one platform to the other.
Absolutely.
And what are your concerns about your friend, the deputy governor of Zamfara State, Barrister Aliyu Gusso, Mahdi Aliyu Gusso, who says he will remain in PDP and is not going to cross to the APC? You were able to persuade the governor, but you couldn't persuade your friend, perhaps.
Well, actually, I don't consider the deputy governor my friend. His father, General Aliyu Gusso, is my elder brother.
Okay.
So perhaps I'm even an uncle of sorts to him. Mm-hmm. As for the PDP going to court, I think that it is too late in the day for them to even attempt doing that. Too many rivers, as they say, has been crossed in the past. I recall the days of my tenure as presidential advisor in charge of the National Assembly when a number of ASEAN senators led by the late Wahab Dosunmu actually crossed over from the ASEAN to the PDP. No, but the PDP didn't go to court then. My friend, Senator Muslio Wanukoro, also defected. The PDP didn't go to court then. I said, this is 20 years late in coming. Perhaps it is just an academic exercise. It would be good to put this to test. We've had defections on both sides, but it's more like the pot actually calling the kettle black. The PDP set the precedents for defections in this country. So for them now that they are at the receiving end, for them to complain, for them to cry, I think I'm sure it's my friend Wike who said that we'll put this to test. So perhaps they are merely testing, in politics we say we are testing waters.
You don't want to comment on the deputy governor? We're staying back in
the deputy governor is free to stay back. It's entirely, absolutely up to him. He has the right to do whatever he chooses to do. It's more of one's conviction. So Governor Motawalli is convinced that the best thing for him to do is to cross over to the APC, and he has done so. His deputy felt otherwise, and I think that there's freedom of choice, so he's free to stay on in the PDP. It won't change anything. Zamfara is a solid APC state. All the elections, all the seats that were contested in the last election, if you recall, it is just the courts that literally dashed our state, an APC-controlled state, to the PDP. Now we've taken it back. So those in the PDP should not complain about this at all.
Well, Rufai?
Quickly, I'd like to know your take, sir, on what is happening in the APC. There have been discordant tunes. The likes of Festus Keyamo is saying, what the APC is doing with Mai Mala Buni is not all right. In fact, the PDP has gone to court as regards this caretaker committee. A lot of people say the ward congresses were in shambles. There were fights here and there, disagreements. Every state of the country, it's fight between two APC factions. In Lagos, there are 3 to 4 factions. I'm sure you've heard of Lagos for Lagos, Lagos Conscience faction. In Osun State, it's Aregbesola versus Oyetola. In Rivers State, it's Amechi versus Magnus Abe. What is happening? A lot of people are saying the APC is imploding.
Very healthy, very democratic. It means that our party is a very, very, very democratic party. And I think that the competition is actually healthy. It's purely on account of our numbers, the fact that our party is accepted across the length and breadth of this country. That is why winning or getting the ticket of the APC to contest an election is like winning a lottery. So I think that I see it in entirely a different context. I think it's very healthy. PDP going to court, they have no business going to court about what is happening in our party. I think they should just concern themselves with what is happening, their own crisis. You spoke eloquently, Rufai, about quote and unquote crisis in the APC. I would also like to ask you a question, and I think it's the first question I'm throwing today. What is going to be the fate of Secondus and his godfather? They've been literally at war. We've read about the resignation of even members of the National Working Committee of the PDP. You didn't say much about that. So I think that it's just, for us in the APC, it's healthy competition. The issue of our chairmanship, It's not the business of the PDP. They should concern themselves about the issue of their own chairman first and resolve it before they assist us, quote and unquote, in resolving the issue of our own chairmanship.
Well,
So
still on the party. Well, there are persons who hold the view that the leaders of the APC have more or less lost the party to Malam Meibuni, to the Attorney General Abubakar Malami, and to Governor Abubakar Bagudu. Do you share that view? And I think that perception is as a result of these politics over acting National Caretaker Committee.
Perhaps you should also add Governor Badaro. So Governor Malabuni, Governor Badaro, Governor Atiku Bagudu, as soon as you release me, they are actually in the hotel waiting for me. As we speak at this critical moment, we are going to commiserate with Governor Dapo Abiodun in Ogun. I don't think that anybody has hijacked the party. We are all working. Maybe some are more visible, more prominent in rebuilding the party. But all of us are doing our own small efforts. Some of us are doing it quietly. It's Governor Atiku Bagudu that is calling me as we speak. So to say that they're actually waiting for me now, and I'll be running off to go and join them now, and then we will travel together. There is nothing wrong with the role that our governors are playing in the party. I think they are working very hard to grow this party. I'm aware that the president is extremely happy with what we are doing, the fact that we are re-strategizing, we are rebuilding, we are growing, and the opposition party is shrinking by the day. I'm going to go to Ibadan again tomorrow to talk to Ladoja, and very soon he's going to join us. As I said, I won't identify the other critical leaders that are equally joining us. So our concern is actually how to get out of the present crisis. And I want to also say that we inherited this crisis. It's not whether it's insecurity or the economy. It didn't just happen overnight under our watch. It's been long in the making. So I want to say with all sense of responsibility that our primary concern is not even the politics, it is rather the economy and the issue of national security. Thank you.
Well, you were going to ask one?
I was going to ask a question.
Quickly.
So would you be supportive of President Buni, if I'm sure you've heard that discussed, that there's a presidential ambition in the offing. But would you support him?
He has not told me.
Hypothetically.
Well, actually, I've also said this. I think I would also address my mind to this. So why not me? I would rather when next I come here, talk to me, about the presidency of this country. Don't ask me about, you see, this is very unfair on me as a person. I have been in the field for precisely now 34, 35 years. I left the services of the bank precisely in 1987. And I've been very active for the past 34, 35 years. I'm overqualified. Talk to me about myself. Don't talk to me about the aspiration of others. Thank you very much.
But what I did ask you, I asked you about yourself.
Looks like this presidential race is getting interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had Dr. Doyo Okukwe here too the other day, last week.
I saw him yesterday.
Yes, and he said
He threw his hat in
he
the
too
ring.
would like to be president.
I saw him yesterday, and he said, I and him. In another breath, he said himself and Bola Tinubu about being cosmopolitan, about having reach, about having spread. I hope that the best person for this country wins. I've told you my own personal aspiration, my own personal agenda is to help the APC win, to help the APC retain power. I'm committed to this.
Very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for your
Alhaji
time.
Kashim Ibrahim-Imam. We have to let you go since you are traveling out of Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
Again, thank you.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.